What's up, DJ Tech Tools? Today, in the first installment of Controllerism Essentials, we are going to teach you how to beat juggle. We're going to use one track, and we're going to learn how to juggle different cue points in time, repeating the beat, changing up the rhythm, and creating something totally fresh. Not only is this really helpful for performances, but it's also really useful for mixing too. In one of our old videos, we showed you how to develop your timing using a click track. I'd like to show you a quick little trick. Over here, I've got one of our DJ Power Tools sounds right here. And you notice at the beginning, there's a little tick sound. This is actually really good for using as a metronome. You can use the internal clock and tractor, but this allows you to actually turn it up and EQ your tap tempo click. So I much prefer to use the beginning of one of our Power Tools songs. You can then adjust the tempo. I recommend starting pretty low, like let's say 75 beats per minute. We'll just sync this deck up and go ahead, set a 1 count loop, and there you have it. You can go ahead and EQ it, turn up the gain, turn down the gain, take it out, and of course record it. So that's super useful, and that's how I begin every practice session. So if you're interested in learning what that practice session looks like, check out this video right here, which is our timing basics tutorial. But today we're not going to talk about timing, we're going to talk about a specific technique, beat juggling. In the right, I've got a track that you all probably know. So what we're going to teach you how to do is juggle around with that track and create some cool patterns and develop your timing. You can play along with a metronome, and that's really useful for getting your timing down, but if you're actually playing with a track, it forces you to learn how to listen to the song and play in time with the song, which is super important for controllerism. The most basic technique, of course, is just to go back to the 1 and keep playing the first downbeat. And what we'll do here is just count out 4 counts and then repeat the phrase, and then we're going to cut it in half and go shorter and shorter and shorter. So we'll start off with 1 count of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so the goal here is, as you listen to it, you'll actually hear if you're on or off, because it'll start to sound weird. Here, I'll intentionally play it off. So if you're behind or ahead, you're going to hear it because it's not going to sound in time. So the goal here is to keep being able to repeat that 1 and have it sound super smooth. This is really useful for in the mix or if you're doing some basic controllerism routines. So once again, we'll start with 4 counts. We'll cut it in half. We'll cut it in half again, and we'll keep going down the list until you get perfectly all the way down to 16ths or maybe even 30 seconds. What I'd like you to practice then is the other major cue point, which is the 2. I've got it on the 3rd cue point here. So that's the snare. I usually like to put the snare there, and I usually like to put a hat right here. So if you wanted to play them in order, you could. So before we get into that crazy stuff, let's just get the snare worked in. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to keep repeating the 1, but we're going to add the snare in. It's very important. I want you to not use the same finger, so don't do this. Why? Because of the length of time it takes for you to get here to here. You want to start training your fingers to work independently. So I want you to use your 3rd finger, I guess that's your ring finger, for the snare. So it should sound something like this. So you can basically do that over and over and over again. And once you're able to repeat the song as it is, in other words, kind of just keep your playing in time with the natural song, then we can change it up. Don't move on and rush ahead and change it up until you've got the basic structure of the song, and you can play in time with the song. So you drop the snare exactly when the snare is supposed to be dropped. You drop the kick exactly when the kick's going to be dropped, and then we can add little fills. So the first change up I want you to do is to add an extra kick. So we're going to play along with the snare. It's going to sound something like... there's the add. On the fourth one, we're going to add a second kick, and that's when we're going to start to get into our own voicing of this song. So it should sound something like... I missed the snare, and you could hear it. So keep going back and doing that again and again and again until you get it absolutely perfect. And once you really have the snare down, you can add the middle finger. That's the middle finger. And that's when we're going to add a little bit of a hat fill. And the fourth finger would, of course, be a secondary fill. I'm not going to teach you that in this video, though. That's going to be for another video. For now, I'd like to get you practicing basic beat repeats with just the kick and just the snare. The first step, play in time with the song, so the song sounds perfectly like the original, even though you're juggling it. Then add a kick fill, then add a snare fill, and then the trick would be putting that over another track.
A clear white man wearing jeans on the streets, trying to consume some stretch for the eat, so I can get some phones rolling in my ride, chilling all alone.
All right, so you're probably wondering, well, that's pretty cool, but I don't really want to be a controllerist. I don't really want to juggle beats. How am I going to use this tool? Well, it's actually really, really useful for just basic mixing. Traditionally, if you were using turntables, you might take the beginning of the next track and sort of creatively work it in, changing up the rhythm and then dropping the song for a more intricate and nuanced mix. Well, you could do the same thing with controllers, but in maybe even more interesting ways. So if I wanted to drop hypnotize and just blend it in, I would use this same technique to kind of bring it in with the next track. Let's hear what that might sound like. So there you have it. One Controllerism's basic tutorial, basic beat juggling. In the next one, we're going to go into advanced beat juggling and show you how to get all four fingers working. Once again, you want to go ahead and start with our basics timing tutorial to kind of get your timing dialed, and then begin practicing juggling with one deck, and then go ahead and put that juggling over another deck. And before you know it, you're going to be slaying the competition and being a controllerist monster that tears down the clubs and makes everyone jealous. This is Ian Golden for DJ Tech Tools, wishing you the best of luck in your DJ career. We'll see you on the internet.
The woman to the G. Just like I thought, we're in the same spot in need of some desperate help. The Nate Dogg and the G-Child were in need of something else.